Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. I'm Deanna. I'm working on one of my new fall designs here. It's called Waiting for Cinderella. And it's a very simple design, and I'm making it to a beginner kit. Sort of a cross section of a pumpkin with a little mouse waiting inside. So I'm working on all the color planning on this. It's got kind of a fancy border that will evolve as I go. But I'm working on this material here. And it brought to mind the fact, I'm going to show you this a lot closer up, that sometimes working with patterned wools can be very, very tricky. So I love working with my materials like these, right? These are all beautiful, beautiful textured, patterned wools, right? These are plaids. But sometimes with materials like this, they are not super compliant when you are trying to hook them. They're very hard to hook. They hook kind of bald and ratty and messy. And one of the things that I sometimes do with them, for example, with this pattern here, this patterned wool here, that is actually this stuff, which I really love. But can you tell by looking at that this is going to play me? Absolutely, it's going to play me. So the question will always be, when you're working with beautiful materials that you like this, that you know might be difficult to hook, are you going to go for it, right? Because when you hook them, it follows that they will come out a little bit challenging, and you are going to have to click as you go. They're not clip as you go with your scissors. They're not as tidy as others, right? They're not as full as others. So what can you do about that? Well, let me show you what I did about that. I've got my pieces here, right? So this is the way that this material looks. And when I just cut it in my little Bliss cutter, it made a nice piece, but I can tell it's very, very thin, and it was quite ratty to start hooking with. So what I did was I took the whole lot of it, I've got a couple yards of it, and threw it into the washing machine with the towels. It was on high, it went right through. Then I put it into the washing machine, the drying machine, on high with the towels, went through, came out. You probably can't tell this on camera, but it came out a little bit fuller. And that's what we want, is fulling, F-U-L-L. This one is washed and dried. This one is not. I could put it through multiple times. It would become even more full. But when you are washing something and heating it like this, you want the fibers to lock a bit better. Because the reason why this is not hooking well is because it's a very loose weave, right? It's very loose and the strands want to come undone. When I wash it with heat, it shrinks a little bit. It becomes more full. I don't want it to felt. If it felts, it means that all of these materials are kind of matted to each other and is likely to become too thick to be able to hook with, but I want it to become more full. And it did become more full because I'm able to hook with it at all. So in this case, I put it through the washer and the dryer once. It became full enough that I'm able to hook with it, which is a triumph in my mind. If I put it through again, maybe it will become even more full. Sometimes I do it 2-3 times. In this case, this is good enough for me. Every loop is not going to come up perfectly beautiful, plump, but I am exchanging in my mind having a wool fabric that is perfect to hook with, but it doesn't have the pattern I'm looking for. I'm comparing it to this one that has a pattern that I'm absolutely in love with. I love these colors and I want them to be in this piece. So I have to make the decision in my mind, am I okay with this being a little bit difficult to hook with, even though it is washed and as fulled as I've made it? Am I okay with that? Knowing that as I hook, I might have to take my scissors now and then, probably a little more often than with another fabric, and do a little bit of clipping as I go, just to make sure it looks tidy. Am I okay with that? And if the answer is yes, I'm okay with that, then you stick with what you've got. Because if you are okay with the idea of hooking with something that does not hook flawlessly, then you are able to open yourself up to all kinds of materials that you find while you're thrifting, that you find at charity stores, you find at yard sales, old cut up clothing, things like that. You look at it and you say, oh God, I love this plaid, but how does it hook? Well, it might not hook great and it might not hook easily, but at the end of the day, if you love that material and you want it in your piece and you can handle having to do a little bit of extra work with clipping it and managing it, then you should absolutely go for it. These loose wovens are often the most beautiful prints and often garment fabrics. So it's just something that as rug hookers we sometimes have to deal with. You do the best you can with trying to make it as full as possible, but at the end of the day, most of us, I think at some point or another, hook with materials that are a little bit more difficult to hook with, but they are so worth it in the end. At least that's my opinion. I'll see you next time on Ribbon Candy Hooking.